I started suspecting my wife because of the mud on her shoes. Not lipstick on a collar. Not some whispered call in the hallway. Just two gray sneakers sitting on yesterday's newspaper by the back door. Hacked around the soles with dark wet clay like she'd been walking along the lake after midnight. The garage sensor light snapped on when she came up the steps. I was in the kitchen with cold coffee in my mug, pretending I'd been reading the same grocery flyer for 20 minutes. Her jacket carried a sharp smell, machine oil, old wood, damp earth. There were 2 fresh scratches across the back of her hand. "Where were you, Elise?" She paused with one shoe half off. "I just stopped somewhere for a bit." "Somewhere?" Her eyes moved past me to the sink, to the window, anywhere but my face. And in that small silence, after 18 years of marriage, I felt something inside me go still. Elise and I had been married long enough that most of our conversations had shrunk down to practical things. "Trash goes out tonight. Did you pay consumers? Your blue shirt's in the dryer. 18 years can do that if you let it. Not all at once, but in little reductions, like a sweater washed too many times." Our daughter, Hannah, had been gone since August, 200 miles away at northern Michigan, and her empty chair still sat between us at the kitchen table like she might come downstairs late and ask for cereal. Some mornings I still reached for 3 coffee mugs. Elise worked in the elementary school library. I managed inventory at a parts warehouse off Route 31, counting brake pads and alternators under lights that made every man look tired by noon. We were not dramatic people. We were mortgage people, oil change people, people with an electric bill held to the refrigerator by a magnet shaped like a cherry pie. But quiet doesn't always mean peaceful. After my mother died the year before, something in me folded inward and stayed there. She had lived 10 minutes away, in the same little ranch house she'd bought after my father left, for months after the funeral. I kept her voicemail saved on an old flip phone in my sock drawer. "Hi, honey. It's Mom." No reason. Just checking in. I listened to it twice. Then never again. But I couldn't delete it. Elise helped me clear out the house while I stood around pretending to be useful. I sold the china cabinet, donated the coats, gave away the sewing machine to a woman from church. Every object felt like it had a voice, and I didn't want to hear any of them. The piano was the worst. Dark walnut. Once scarred-legged, half the keys sticking. Mom used to play one simple song after dinner when the TV was off. I couldn't remember the name. Only the feeling of being small and safe in the next room. When Elise asked what I wanted to do with it, I said, "Sell it." She looked at me for a long second. "Are you sure? No one plays it. You used to love that piano. I used to love a lot of things." She didn't argue. Sometimes Elise's kindness sounded exactly like silence. 5 years earlier, she had hidden her sister's medical debt on a credit card I didn't know existed. It was betrayal in the way people whisper about. It was fear, family, panic. But I still remembered the statement spread across the same kitchen table while she cried into both hands. "I didn't want to burden you," she said. I told her marriage didn't work that way. I forgave her. Mostly. We paid it off. Mostly. But something stayed behind. A hairline crack under the paint. So when she came home late with mud on her shoes and wouldn't meet my eyes, I didn't start from trust. I started from memory. That night, after she went upstairs, I stood by the refrigerator and looked at the curling electric bill. The furnace hummed. The dishwasher clicked. Hannah's chair sat pushed in. Neat and empty. From above came water running in the bathroom sink. Then a drawer opening, unclosing carefully. Too carefully. And I hated myself for noticing. The next Thursday, Elise stood at the hallway mirror winding a scarf around her neck. Though the house was warm and the rain had turned the windows gray. "Book club tonight?" I asked. She kept her eyes on the mirror. "Yeah. I told you Tuesday." "You did." From the laundry room, the old dryer thumped in a slow, uneven circle. I sat on the bottom step pretending to tie my work boot, even though the knot was already tight. "What are you reading?" She gave me a quick smile. "You wouldn't like it. That narrows it down." For 1 second, I saw the woman who used to laugh at me across grocery aisles and diner booths. Then the smile disappeared. "I won't be late," she said. She kissed the air beside my cheek and went out through the garage. I stayed there until the sensor light clicked off. At 7:15, I stood in the hall staring at our old landline. Elise always said we needed it for emergencies. The beige handset sat on the little table by the coat closet, scratched and dusty, with one of Hannah's childhood stickers still peeling on the side. I told myself not to touch it. Then I picked it up and called the library. A woman answered on the fourth ring. "Maple Ridge Elementary Library." "Hi," I said, trying to sound casual. "Is the adult book club meeting there tonight?" Paper rustled. No, sir. That was canceled this afternoon. Plumbing issue in the multi-purpose room. Mrs. Calder sent an email. I stared at my reflection in the dark hall window. "Oh," I said. "Right. Must we miss that?" I hung up carefully. For a while, I just listened to the dryer turning and the rain tapping the porch roof. Elise came home a little after 9. I was in the kitchen, standing beside a coffee mug I had washed twice and still hadn't put away. She stepped in with her shoulders hunched. Her hair had slipped loose, and a dark streak marked her jaw, like she'd wiped her face with a dirty hand. "Long meeting," I said. She paused. "We talked afterward. About the book I wouldn't like." Her hand stopped on her shoelaces. Then, she pulled them loose. "Mark, I'm tired." When she hung her coat by the back door, I saw her palm. The heel of it was smeared black. Not mud, more like soot or graphite, ground deep into the lines of her skin. "What happened to your hand?" She looked down too late. "Old dust. A shelf at school. At 9 at night? Please don't start." She went upstairs without another word. Her coat dripped onto the mat. I stood there telling myself to leave it alone. Then, I reached into the pocket. A tissue. 2 cough drops. A damp receipt, soft from the rain. The top had been torn away, taking the place name with it. The bottom remained. Room B rental after hours. Paid cash. No address. No phone number. Just those words and that night's date. Upstairs. The bathroom faucet turned on. I folded the receipt and slid it into my shirt pocket. For the first time, I didn't feel suspicious. I felt sure. I didn't sleep much after that. The receipt stayed folded in my nightstand drawer for 3 days. So tight the paper began to split. I never showed it to Elise. I never said what I was thinking. Saying it out loud would have made me the kind of husband who accused his wife under the kitchen light while the furnace groaned and the neighbor's dog barked at nothing. Instead, I watched. Elise marked Tuesday and Thursday evenings on the calendar with tiny blue dots. No words. She moved her raincoat from the hook by the back door to the laundry room and washed it alone. Late. After I had gone upstairs. Once, when I came down for water, the dryer vent gave off that same sharp smell metal. Damp wood. Something old being rubbed raw. On Monday, I saw the bank envelope in her purse. It was half open beneath a pack of tissues and a paperback from the school library. I didn't touch it. I just stood in the hallway with my work boots still on, staring at that white corner like it might burn me. The next morning, between purchase orders at the warehouse, I checked our account. Cash withdrawal. $40. Not enough to leave on. Not enough to ruin us. Just enough to keep something secret alive. Shame came in waves. I would be counting brake rotors, scanning labels, nodding at men talking about the Lions, and suddenly I'd picture Elise across the table from someone I called and see, her face softer than it had been with me in months. Then I'd hate myself for imagining it. At home, she was almost normal. She still asked if I wanted chili warmed up, still reminded me about recycling, still stood at the sink in her socks, rinsing a mug with one hand while rubbing the small of her back with the other. But there were gaps now. Little missing places. Book club Thursday? I asked. She didn't turn around. Maybe. If Donna's feeling better. Thought it was canceled last week. It was. The water ran too long. That night, while she was upstairs, I found the key. I was searching. Not exactly. I was dropping a loose button from my work sure into the old glass jar she kept on the laundry shelf. When the button hit bottom, something brass clicked beneath it. I tipped the jar. A key slid out on a plain metal ring. No tag. Not ours. Not the shed. Not Hannah's old by clock. Elise? I almost called. Then she called first. Mark? Have you seen my gray sweater? I nearly dropped the key. In the basket, I said, and buried it under mismatched buttons as carefully as if it were evidence. Thursday came with rain. The kind that made our little town look rubbed out. At dinner, Elise ate half a bowl of soup and kept glancing at the clock above the stove. You don't have to make an excuse, I said. Her spoon stopped. I wished I could pull the words back. She looked tired. Not guilty. Exactly. Tired. A red scratch ran near her wrist, thin as a paper cut, and a bruise had started at the base of her thumb. He'll be back by 9, she said. That was what I asked. You didn't ask anything. Then she rinsed her bowl and went for her coat. I waited until her eyelights passed the maple at the end of the drive. Then I grabbed my keys. My truck wipers dragged across the wet glass with a tired squeak. I stayed 3 cars behind her on Harbor Street. Hands clamped so hard around the wheel my knuckles hurt. Don't do this, I whispered. But I did. She didn't turn toward the library, Donna's house, or the church basement where the book club used to meet. She drove past the diner, past the shuttered bait shop, past the laundromat with one blinking sign, then turned near the railroad tracks. That side of town had gone quiet years ago. Brick buildings, chain-link fences, loading docks with weeds in the cracks, a plumbing supply warehouse, a low building with boarded windows and one yellow security light over a side door. Elise slowed. I panicked and turned into the lot of an abandoned feed store. By the time I pulled back out, her taillights were gone. I circled twice in the rain, slow enough to look guilty to anybody with sense. My headlights slid over rusted doors, faded signs, black puddles and broken pavement. No Elise, no car. Just the tracks, the warehouses, and that buzzing light. I parked under a dead street lamp and sat with the engine running. For a few minutes, I hated her. Then, worse, I hated myself. The cash, the key, the torn receipt, her dirty hands. I had lined them up until they pointed where my fear wanted them to point. But sitting there with my breath fogging the glass, I realized I was only afraid she had someone else. I was afraid she had found a life where I was needed. At 9:15, I drove home before she could catch me there. When her headlights finally swept across the curtains, I stood in the dark kitchen and didn't move. The back door opened. Elise came in quietly, carrying her shoes in one hand, mud clinging to the soles. Mark, she said. I stayed hidden. She sighed, soft and careful, like someone who had just made it through something hard. Then she set the shoes on the newspaper, and I saw another black streak across her palm. The next Thursday, I told Elise I had to work late. The lie came out so easily it scared me. She was buttering toast at the counter, hair clipped up with one of those brown plastic claws she was always losing. Inventory again? She asked. Yeah, that place would fall apart without you. There was no suspicion in her voice, just tired affection, which somehow made me feel worse. All day at the warehouse, I moved like a man underwater. I signed forms twice, sent a pallet of alternators to the wrong bay, and drank gas station coffee that tasted like burnt pennies. By 6:30, I was parked 2 streets from our house with rain stippling the windshield, waiting for my wife to leave. At 7, her gray sedan rolled past. I followed with 3 cars between us. She didn't go toward the library, didn't go toward Donna's neighborhood, didn't go anywhere a Thursday night should have taken her. She drove back toward the old warehouse district by the tracks. This time, I didn't lose her. The buildings there sat low and dark in the rain, with a few new signs bolted to tired brick: a welding studio, a dance place with blacked-out windows, a charity office with a plastic banner snapping in the wind. Elise pulled behind a long cinder block building painted with a faded lake mural. I killed my headlights before turning in. She parked near a side door under a yellow security light. For a moment she stayed in the car, both hands on the wheel, through the wet glass. She looked small, not guilty. Exactly. More like someone gathering courage. Then she got out with a canvas tote bag and the key from the button jar. Eamon opened the door before she reached it. He was older. Maybe late 60s. Tall but bent at the shoulders. Wearing a cap and flannel jacket. He smiled at her like he had been expecting her. Like this was routine. Something inside me went cold. He took the tote from her hand gently. Familiarly. They spoke under the awning where the rain blurred everything. His hand touched her elbow. Elise looked down, and then she leaned toward him. He put one arm around her shoulders. It lasted only a few seconds, but my chest locked up as if someone had tightened a strap around it. Every decent thought tried to defend her. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe he was helping her. Maybe comfort didn't have to mean betrayal. But my mind had already chosen the ugliest answer. The man said something. Elise wiped under one eye with the heel of her hand. Then they went inside and the door shut. I should have gone home. Instead, I got out. Rain soaked my collar as I crossed to a narrow, dusty window along the side. A stack of wooden pallets leaned beneath it. I climbed up, feeling ridiculous and sick. A 52-year-old man spying on his own wife. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over a hallway, metal folding chairs, and a bulletin board crowded with flyers. Elise and the man stood beyond a half-open doorway. His voice reached me first. "You sure you don't want to tell him?" Elise answered. "Not yet." My stomach dropped. "If Mark knows," she said, "he'll shut it down. He won't understand." Hearing my name in that room hurt worse than I expected. It made me feel like a problem being discussed, not a husband. The man sighed. "You're caring too much by yourself." "I know," she said, "but I'm close. Just a little longer." Close to what? Leaving? Choosing? Building some other life in a rented room while I sat at home pretending not to notice the empty side of the couch? My foot slipped. The pallet cracked under me. Inside, Elise turned toward the window. I ducked so fast I scraped my wrist against a nail head. Pain flashed hot and bright. I crouched in the rain, holding my breath like a fool. No one came out. At 9, Elise emerged alone. She looked exhausted, shoulders sagging beneath her coat. Before getting into her car, she glanced up at the rainy sky and smiled. That smile hurt more than the hug, because it looked like hope. And whatever was giving it to her, it washed me. I didn't sleep. By morning, the house smelled like toast and coffee. Cruelly normal. Elise stood at the counter in her robe, buttering an English muffin. A small square bandage sat near her thumb. The edge darkened like it had gotten wet. "You're up early," she said. I didn't sit down. "Where were you last night?" And stopped. That 1 second of silence did more damage than any answer could have. "I told you," she said carefully. "I had something to do." "Something." I repeated. She set the knife down. "Mark. Not before work." "No. That's what you always do. You turn the corner before we get to the truth." Her face tightened. "What truth?" My throat felt scraped raw. "I followed you." The kitchen went still except for the coffee maker ticking on the counter. Elise stared at me as if I had become someone she didn't recognize. "You what?" "I followed you last night." I forced myself to meet her eyes. I saw the building. I saw the man. I saw him hug you. Colored rained from her face, but it wasn't guilt I saw. It was hurt, sharp and immediate. "You followed me," she said. I saw him ask if you were going to tell me. Her shoulders dropped, like something inside her had given out. "You had no right. I'm your husband. And I'm your wife," she said, voice shaking now. "Not your suspect." The word hit harder than I expected. "Then stop acting like one," I snapped. Her eyes filled, but she held the tears back. Elise had always been able to do that. Stand there breaking quietly, while I made enough noise for both of us. "You really believe that?" she asked. "I don't know what to believe. You lie about where you're going. You come home with mud on your shoes. scratches on your hands, metal dust on your sleeves. There are receipts, cash withdrawals, some key I've never seen before. My voice cracked despite me. What was I supposed to think? You were supposed to ask me like you wanted the truth, she said, not like you'd already convicted me. I looked away. On the breakfast table sat our daughter's old chair, still wobbling on the folded napkin Elise had tucked under one leg years ago. Such a small, patient repair. So unlike me. I knew this would happen, she whispered. What would happen? You'd make it ugly. A bitter laugh slipped out. So, now this is my fault? No, she wiped at one eye with the heel of her hand. But you don't leave room for anything you can't control anymore. Mark. The words found the bruise. For a second I saw my mother's piano in the storage unit. Its cloudy wood under a gray sheet, the cracked bench beside it. I remembered telling the man to take it. Take all of it. Because every object she left behind felt like a hand closing around my throat. Elise had stood behind me that day, crying without sound. This isn't about my mother, I said. Her expressions softened, and somehow that made me angrier. Don't look at me like that. Like what? Like you know what I'm feeling. I don't, she said, because you don't tell me. You lock it up, and then punish me for not having the key. The coffee maker hissed. A drop burned onto the warming plate, bitter and sharp. What I wanted to ask was simple and humiliating. Are you leaving me? Did you find someone kinder? Have you been waiting for me to notice I'm already alone? Instead I said, if you want out, just say it. Elise went completely still. Then she whispered, is that really what you think of me? I had no answer that wouldn't expose too much, so I gave her silence. She nodded once, as if that confirmed something terrible. Then she turned toward the hallway. Where are you going? I asked. To get dressed. We're not done. She stopped with one hand on the doorframe but didn't look back. For now, we are. Elise, I have never given you a reason to think I would betray you like that, she said quietly. But you went looking for one anyway. Then she disappeared, down the hall. I stood in the kitchen beside two cooling cups of coffee, my scraped wrist throbbing under my sleeve. And for the first time I wondered which was worse, what she might be hiding, or what I had just revealed about myself. She didn't go to work. I found that out at noon, driving past the elementary school like a man who had misplaced his pride. Her Subaru was in the staff lot. I sat across from the soccer field, watching children splash through puddles while my hands gripped the wheel. At 4:40. Her text came. If you want the truth, meet me at the Community Arts Building. Back entrance. 6 o'clock. And no heart. No explanation. By evening the rain had stopped, but everything still looked soaked. The arts building sat near the tracks, brick walls dark with damp, weeds pushing through the pavement. I parked by a dumpster and walked to the rear door with my scraped wrist burning under my sleeve. Elise waited beneath the awning in jeans and an old blue sweater. There was varnish on one cuff. Her hair was tied back, loose strands curling at her neck. She looked exhausted, but not guilty in the way I had imagined. I almost didn't come, I said. I know. A train groaned somewhere beyond the warehouses. Then she held out a small key from the button jar. I stared at it. Please, she said, just look first. She unlocked the door and led me through a narrow hall that smelled of dust, floor wax, and old heat. We passed stacked clay bowls, folding chairs, a bulletin board covered in curling flyers. At the end was a hand-painted sign, ROOMB. My mouth went dry. She opened the door. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Not perfume, not some secret apartment. Varnish, metal, damp with the exact smells I had turned into evidence. A gray-haired man in a flannel shirt stood by a workbench, wiping his hands on a rag. The man from the night before. He looked at me gently. You must be Mark. I called into answer. Elise stepped aside, and there it was, my mother's piano. The old upright sat under bright shop lights. Walnut body half polished, front panel removed. Yellowed keys showed like old teeth. Tiny hammers rested inside and neat. Fragile rose. On the bench were jars of screws, strips of felt, sandpaper, and a paper cup of tea gone cold. I took one step in and stopped. No, I said, though I didn't know what I meant. You told the consignment place to haul it away in March. Elise said. I remembered signing the form after the funeral. I remembered standing in Mom's living room, unable to breathe among her lamps, quilts, hymn books, and saying, just take it. I couldn't let them. She said. I went back the next morning. You bought it. A little at a time. Cash, every couple weeks. She swallowed. Then I found Warren. He used to tune pianos around Lake Benton. He knew your mother. The man nodded. Played at the Lutheran church for years. Strong left hand. Rushed every hymn like she was late for supper. A memory opened so fast it hurt Mom at Christmas. Laughing because she couldn't sing and play at once. Mom tapping my wrist when I was 10. Saying, not so stiff. Marky, music needs elbows. I looked at the piano's open belly. The scratches? I asked. Strings, hinges, sanding blocks. I'm terrible with tools. The coat? Varnish dust. I washed it so you wouldn't ask. Room B? After hours rental. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Warren volunteers here. I paid for supplies. Every little piece I had sharpened into a weapon turned ordinary in my hands. And the hug? I said. Elise's eyes filled. One of the hammer stems snapped. I thought it ruined it. I was tired. And I missed your mother. Which sounds foolish because she lost mine. Her voice broke. Warren said it could be fixed. I cried anyway. Warren quietly set down his rag. I'll give you 2 minutes. When the door closed, the room went still. Elise touched one yellow key. It answered with a dull, crooked note. I was learning her song. She whispered. The one from the voicemail, you still play when you think I'm asleep. I couldn't speak. All I could do was stand in that room full of proof, ashamed down to the bone, while my wife looked at the broken piano she had been trying to bring back to life for me. I finally sat on the piano bench because my knees didn't trust me anymore. The wood creaked under my weight. I rested one hand on the edge of the keyboard without pressing a key, like I was asking permission from something I had nearly thrown away. Elise stood a few feet from me, arms folded tight across her sweater. I'm sorry, I said. It sounded too small, so I made myself keep going. I'm sorry for following you, for sitting in parking lots and turning every little thing into proof. I built a whole story where you were guilty because I was afraid, and then I made you defend your love like it was on trial. Her eyes stayed on the floor. Her chin trembled once. I rubbed my thumb over a nick in the bench. Suddenly I could see my mother sitting there, smelling like peppermint gum and hand lotion, tapping out the left-hand notes while I complained the song was boring. I would have given anything to be bored beside her again. I thought if I got rid of her things, it would hurt less. I said, the dresses, the mixing bowls, that ugly ceramic rooster. Elise let out a weak laugh. I hated that rooster. So did I. My throat tightened. But selling the piano washed about space. I was trying to punish the memory for staying. The room hummed with the old building's heat. Beyond the wall, a train horn sounded low over the lake road. Elise came closer, but not all the way. I should have told you, she said. I kept telling myself it would be beautiful if it was a surprise. Just one more week, I thought. Just until I could play the first page without ruining it. She wiped under one eye. But I knew what secrets did to us before. Even good ones have weight. The money for your sister, I said. Her shoulders sank. Like she had waited years to hear those words without anger around them. I was ashamed, she whispered. She needed help. And I panicked. Then you found out from the bank statement. And after that, every quiet thing between us sounded like a lie. I used it against you, I said. Long after I claimed I'd forgiven it. She didn't deny it. That hurt because it was true. I pressed one yellowed key. The note wobbled out, thin and sour, then disappeared into the smell of varnish and dust. Warren says it may never sound perfect, she said. I looked at the patched corner, the cracked music stand, the old scars fresh polish couldn't hide. Neither do we, I said. For the first time that night, she really looked at me. I wanted to take her hand, but I waited. I had done enough grabbing at certainty. After a moment, she sat beside me. The bench was narrow, and our shoulders touched. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but contact. I miss her too, Elise said. The tears came before I could make them decent. I covered my face, ashamed of the sound that left me. Elise didn't shush me or say it was okay. She just stayed there, warm beside me, while the old piano held our silence. When I could breathe again, I asked, "Can you teach me the first notes?" She placed my right hand over the keys. "Not so stiff," she said softly. And for one aching second, it was my mother's voice too. A few weeks later, Warren backed his pickup into our driveway just after breakfast. Elise stood on the porch with both hands around her coffee mug. I carried blankets, steadied corners, and did what Warren told me, trying not to show how badly my chest was shaking. The piano looked smaller in our living room than it had in room B, but heavier somehow. Morning sun spread across the lid and found every scar the polish hadn't hidden the patched corner. The worn pedals, the place where my mother's ring had tapped the wood for 30 years. Warren tuned one last string, pressed a chord, and winced. "She's got opinions," he said. Elise laughed, soft and nervous. After he left, we sat on the couch with 2 cups of coffee cooling between us. "I'm sorry I followed you," I said. She stared at the faint scratches near her knuckles. "I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to." "No," I said. "That part was mine." Her eyes filled. I thought if it was beautiful enough, the secret wouldn't matter. I took her hand. This time, she let me. "Secrets always matter," I said. "Even kind ones." We talked then, not loudly, not perfectly. About her sister's old medical bills. About my mother. About how I had sold dishes, lamps, coats, anything that smelled like grief. Because empty rooms felt easier than remembering. Elise listened without defending herself. I listened without preparing a verdict. At last, she sat at the bench. The first notes came out uneven. One key clicked. Another rang too sharp. She stopped, whispered something my mother would have scolded her for, and started again. Halfway through, I heard it. Not perfection. My mother. Not in a box. Not in a saved voicemail playing in the dark. In the room. In the light. Allowed to stay. I cried quietly. And Elise kept playing. Later, by the back door, I saw her muddy sneakers on the old newspaper. Just like that first night. I almost moved them. Instead, I left them there. Proof can break a heart when you don't know how to read it. Then I went back inside and listened.